Hello and welcome to episode 599 of the Connected Podcast from Relay. This episode is brought to you by Mercury Weather, Squarespace, and Steam Clock. My name is Myke and I have the pleasure of introducing Prince Flexi, Federico Vitici. Hi, Federico.
Hello, Myke. How are you?
I'm good. It's just me and you today.
Yes.
We will hopefully all be together next week.
Hopefully.
For episode 600. I want to warn you that currently the show note document that we have in Notion for episode 600, I think there are two topics where it just says hold for Stephen. So we've got that one to look forward to, I guess. Ominous.
We'll see. Yeah, kind of.
I got a bit of follow-up for you. So me and Stephen were talking last time about the fact that the MacBook Neo has the self-service repair parts available now on their like portal, and I was like, oh, could you buy different colors, and swap things around? And Stephen said, because as it has been in the past, no, you need to give them your serial number, and it just lets you buy replacement parts that are like for like. But it seems that now, I've got a report from The Verge, who are also reporting something from that Macworld found, that you can choose the colors of the parts that you buy, irrespective of the model of MacBook Neo that you have. So in theory, you could get a new keyboard, a new top case in different colors and swap them around. And that is especially interesting for anybody who is even just a little bit tinkery, because apparently this computer is so easy to take apart. So there you go.
Okay.
You're going to do it?
Match.
Are you interested in doing this?
I am conceptually interested, but I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you using the MacBook Neo at all?
Not much. I think it's going to end up being like a beta computer. I don't know. We'll see. But not much, because I realized I open so many apps on a daily basis. I don't know. And also I got to use the MacBook Pro for real work, and the MacBook Neo, I think it's a great computer, like if you just want to write or just browse the web or do more lightweight things. And it's the form factor of it makes me happy, but I think it's going to end up being my secondary Mac for like betas in the summer, stuff like that.
Okay. All right, Federico, we need to get into talking about my backups again.
Okay.
So as a very quick refreshment of this, we were talking about backups in a pro show a couple of weeks ago. Then it was highlighted to me that Backblaze, which is what I've been using for my online backup, is no longer backing up Dropbox files because of reasons that they state. And then this sent me down like just a spiral of trying to work out how to back up my computer in a way that is desirable for me. So I want to give you an update to what the last week has given. So I made the decision, after doing a lot of thinking about how I was going to make this work for me, that I didn't want to go for a network attached storage device. I got lots of recommendations for products that did look good, but ultimately I wanted something that was immediately understandable to me, which macOS is, and also would then allow me to do some macOS-y things on a computer that is always on and always connected to the internet. That idea is interesting to me, as it is to many people. So I thought to myself, right, what I'll do, because I don't necessarily need a beefy machine here, I will just get a base Mac Mini and an SSD, and that's where I'll start, right? Get the Mac Mini and then just download my entire Dropbox to that SSD. It can just live there. Because even in the file provider era that we're in, Dropbox can still put itself onto an external drive. There are some restrictions around that and some ways that you have to do it, but Dropbox document it all very well, it seems. So I was like, okay, that's what I'll do. Then I started looking, and there were no Mac Minis. They just didn't exist.
Thank you, OpenClaw.
Yeah. Now I actually did look today, and some are available for pickup now, even if delivery is still 6 weeks from now. But it's only the complete base model, and I was wondering if I would maybe want more RAM. But anyway, I couldn't get anything, and so then I was like, okay, let me go look at network attached storage devices again. And I was kind of going down the rabbit hole of what would make sense here. And I was looking at some products that took NVMe drives, my word, the price of NVMe storage right now is unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. They're more expensive than external SSDs. Like just like, you know, like say like one of those Samsung things or whatever. Like it's just unhinged, the prices of this stuff right now. So I was like, right, that's not going to work. And I found so you know the company Crucial, they make external SSDs. And I found an 8 terabyte SSD drive for, I think it was like £600, which is expensive, but in the grand scheme of where things are right now, that's okay. And I'm not paying attention to what that would have cost me before because there's no point in doing that. I don't live in that reality. So I was like, well, I still need something to connect it to if I go down that road. And I was like, oh, I have my M1 iMac. Like that is a computer I have in a box. It's like, I can use that. And then I remembered, hang on a minute, I have a MacBook Pro. I have my M1 Max MacBook Pro just sitting in the studio. And that was a computer that when I moved from the MacBook Pro to the MacBook Air, I thought to myself, I'm going to keep this MacBook Pro because I think someone in my life will need a computer at some point because that happens, right? Yeah. So I was like, this and that machine was a few years old at that point. I was looking at the prices, like I can't really make a decent money back, so I'm going to hold on to this computer. Someone will need it at some point. Turns out that someone ended up being me. So this machine is beefy. I've got 2 terabytes of onboard SSD in this thing. I got the Max CPU because when that computer came out, I definitely only needed a Pro, but we didn't really understand what Max and Pro were like, and I ordered it very quickly. It's why I bought a polishing cloth because I just thought that was something that I would need. And so I got that, and it's also got like 64 gigabytes of RAM in it, I think. And so it's like, it's a very powerful machine. It's like, well, that's much better for what I might want to do with this thing. And so I got the SSD, I got the MacBook Pro up and running. I kind of cleared it out of apps I'm not going to need because I'm not going to use it like my regular laptop, right? So let's get rid of Slack. Let's get rid of you know, all the regular apps I might have on my computer. Let's clear out a bunch of stuff. And so set that all up. And I put the SSD in, and I was like, right, I'm going to deal with this later on. Like I formatted the SSD the way that it needed to APFS encrypted, which is what Dropbox wanted. Fine. Then I had to go to a show, and as I'm recording the show, I get a notification from Backblaze telling me that my Backblaze license was inherited by my MacBook Pro, moving the license away from my Mac Mini. I don't know why that decision was made. So that license was previously inherited from my MacBook Pro to my Mac Mini. I don't know why turning that MacBook Pro on again would, without me doing anything, move that license back to that computer. And I couldn't get it to swap back. It was throwing an error. And so I had to contact their support team to understand. I then had to uninstall Backblaze, reinstall Backblaze, and do the whole dance of like the inheriting backup, which it had the Backblaze app was showing this screen of like it said inheriting backup downloading. It was showing that one screen for 2 days without anything changing. And I wasn't in the studio yesterday. I left my Mac Mini doing its thing. I came in today and it was still showing that screen. So this is 2 days after I started. And so I was like, well, something's not right here. So I force quit the app, opened it again, and it's like, hey, it's all done. It's like, what are we talking about? This is, and I'll say, like, I've been kind of getting into it a little bit with Backblaze's support team because I asked them to help me do this. They helped me do this. And then I said, by the way, why did you do this with Dropbox? Why are you no longer backing up Dropbox? They told me why it doesn't work on a Windows PC. I told them I'm using a Mac. They gave me an answer, which I'm not sure that I fully understand why now, right? Because they're talking about the way that file providers work, and who knows, maybe something changed on Tahoe, and whatever. Maybe it is impossible for them. But as I explained to the support person, and I was being very nice, but I am a disgruntled customer, right? So I'm not being rude, but I'm explaining why I'm upset. I just said, why did you not contact customers before deleting the data? And they said, well, your data's still available for 30 days. You can just go download it. And it's like, my point still stands. Like, after 30 days, that data is completely gone. And you didn't do anything to explain to anyone. And this person's like, well, unfortunately, I have no control over the communications. To which I'm like, of course you don't. But I've lodged my complaint. And I'll come back to this in a moment, but I am considering, switching away from Backblaze. So that I've got that machine sorted out now. The Backblaze migration thing is done. Their whole migration system is really bad, and it was especially bad because it just did it on its own, and I don't know why it did that. Going back to the MacBook Pro, Dropbox has been indexing for 3 days now, and nothing is downloaded.
That's great.
I did some research on this, and apparently for a Dropbox account of the size of mine, which is nearly 3 terabytes, which I'm trying to download, it can take many days. And apparently, like, as long as in Activity Monitor, Dropbox is doing something in the CPU, it means it is kind of preparing itself, and it can take days and days. So I may have more follow-up in next week to see if that actually happened or not. But I know I can get that Dropbox working at some point. I might just need to jump through a few more hoops to get that going. I'm kind of edge case here, which I'm aware of. I have a massive Dropbox account, and I am downloading it via the file provider, which you can opt out of now, which is interesting. Dropbox has a path for opting out of file provider. I don't want to do that because that doesn't feel like something that should be done, but if this doesn't work, I may try it that way. But I'm like, massive Dropbox account, using a file provider onto an external SSD. All of this stuff can be done, but I know I'm kind of like very thin end of the wedge here. So I'm just going to let it do what it's doing. But something I've done for like in setting this machine up, and I did this today, I've set up Tailscale and using the Screens app. So I will be able to access this MacBook Pro from anywhere at any time, which I think this is the thing of like, okay, if I'm going to go down this route, I don't want to have done all of this just to have a Dropbox backup, right? It feels like too much. Yeah. So like now I'll have this like somewhat powerful computer connected to a really fast, I have like gigabit up and down in the studio, which I don't have at home. So I'm like, like I was thinking if I need to upload the audio for today's episode, it would be so much faster for me to connect via Screens to the Mac here and download it here and upload it to our CDN rather than doing it at home. So I'm like already having these thoughts of like, I'll have this computer. And so I'm starting to think about, and I will look forward in the future to kind of exploring like what I can do with an always on Mac. And because I have a laptop, I've got a couple of things going on that I'm going to try. I'm using an app called Amphetamine to keep it on.
Yes.
But also I bought a HDMI dummy plug.
Yes.
So if I want to close the screen, I can, and then macOS thinks that there's a monitor attached. So I've got a few different things I'm going to play around with for like how I will keep this on. But I found the experience of using Tailscale and Screens to be really good. Like I'll put a link in the show notes to the Edovia, which is the company that makes screens. Their setup process for this, which worked really well for me. Hopefully it's going to work. I've had some issues with like remote access stuff from home to my studio because I don't technically control my network here, right? Like I have my own Wi-Fi routers, but I've had some issues. Like I don't control the switch. It's not mine. It's rented, right, from the company that I rent my studio from. So I'll see how that works. Hopefully it will still work, but that's been going well. The next thing that I'm doing is like, okay, I want to look at Backblaze alternatives, right? Because I still want, once I've downloaded all this stuff, I then want an online backup of it. That's the whole reason I'm doing all of this in the first place. And I found a company called iDrive. Have you ever heard of them?
Vaguely, maybe.
So they claim to be like very popular, like the best around. But anyway, they are essentially a competitor to Backblaze. They do the Backblaze stuff, right? Like online backup. They seem to be quite focused on enterprise, those kinds of things. They do things a little bit differently, where your subscription is not unlimited, it is limited, but you can share the pool of data amongst multiple computers. So their starting plan, which I think is like $100 a year or whatever, is 5 terabytes of data. And but you can have multiple backups. You can even have them multiple people within a team, depending on which you choose. And that will do the syncing for you. They're like a whole system. It's not like Arc where you're using somebody else's system on the back end. It is they do the whole thing. But what I saw with them, which I thought was really interesting, they have an add-on for an additional $20 a month. You can connect your Dropbox via the API, and they will just do a cloud-to-cloud backup of your entire Dropbox.
Huh. Okay.
Now, if I would have found this first, I may not have gone down the route that I'm currently going down. But nevertheless, now I'm like, I've been too rocked by this, so I now want to have full local and full cloud. And I think that's probably how I'm going to do the cloud backup portion to save me kind of, and so maybe I'll get iDrive. I will just back up what's local to my computer, like my photos and all that kind of stuff, to them. And then also use their cloud Dropbox backup to do that part as well. So yeah, I've never heard of this company, but they seem to be, they seem reputable enough. Their app looks terrible, but so does Dropbox's, right? Like all of the things that I don't, their website's terrible. So is, sorry, not Dropbox, Backblaze. So is Backblaze's. Like,
yes.
So these things are essentially, will it do the backup? And I've always found Backblaze to be rock solid in that regard, which is why I've recommended them for so long. But now I can't bring myself to recommend them anymore. So I'm going to try. I am planning to try iDrive as well as another thing to do here. So this is where I am. Nothing is even nearly finished, but I've at least made my decisions. And then in the future, once I've got this all set up, my plan is to buy also a very large spinning disc and have my time machine on a spinning disc. And it would be very easy for me in the studio to have it like at the other side of the studio, and I definitely wouldn't hear it. My issue with the spinning discs was having them connected to my Mac Mini, because that's right in front of me. So that's where I am right now. Tons of things going on. But yeah, I'm feeling like I'm finally starting to get a hold over the issues that I've had. So I'm feeling a bit better about it all.
Nice. I do have some tips.
Okay.
Obviously, if you have an always on Mac, there are plenty of things that you could try.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love doing on my always on Mac Studio is just keep the Claude app running. And that allows you to use Dispatch from iOS. And the reason for that is that I have some local web apps and local servers that I built with Claude, and that allows me to manage those apps and request changes or fix things from my iPhone using Dispatch. So that's nice. That also allows you, by the way, to have a Claude Code session always running in the terminal on the always on Mac. If you want to use Claude from Telegram or iMessage, which is also something very funny that I'm doing. Especially Claude on iMessage is really interesting and fun because it allows you to talk to it via Siri, for example, when you're using AirPods. To do that, I signed out from my iMessage account on the Mac Studio server, and I repurposed an old Apple account as the Claude Apple account. So Claude has its own iMessage account on the Mac Studio server, and that allows me to talk to quote-unquote Claude as an iMessage contact. Something else that I do, so I mentioned Dispatch, Claude Code for iMessage and Telegram. Obviously, you got you don't use Plex, you don't use Rune for music. Those are also like
I could though.
You could if you want to hook it up to a TV. You could use the channels server for TV streaming, which is also something that I'm doing in my home. Yeah, those would be, and I mean, obviously you have Tailscale installed. So the moment you start creating web apps for yourself that only you can access via your Tailscale network anywhere you are in the world, that feels like cheating, kind of. It feels like a superpower.
Yeah.
And also, I love Screens by Adovia.
Yep.
But I don't recommend it anymore because it's still using the VNC protocol.
Okay.
You want to use something else. You want to use, my recommendation right now is Jump Desktop.
Oh my
because
gosh, I
it's
used that a long time ago.
It's using the Fluid Remote Desktop protocol.
Okay.
Which is much less latency and much higher picture quality than VNC. And I'll give you one more. Google. Go on Google and Google Jump Desktop 10 Beta. There's a free download for the desktop server, and there's an email address. If you email that email address and you request access to the test flight for version 10, they will just respond to you right away with the test flight link for the updated Jump Desktop on iPhone and iPad. It is so much nicer than VNC. Alternatively, the folks at AstroPad, remember the Luna display folks? They just came out with their own take on a remote desktop client called Astro Workbench, which is has a bit of quirks right now that I think John will soon have a review on Mac Stories. It also has a subscription, but they're doing some interesting things. For example, they have two interesting features. One is they automatically adapt the display resolution to whatever device you're using to connect. So for example, you connect from your iPhone, the picture fills the entire display of the phone, which is cool. And they have a built-in dictation mode that uses the Apple Transcription API, so that if you have something running on the Mac server and you don't want to type from your iPhone, you can just dictate from your iPhone and it'll be transcribed on the remote computer. So if you want to issue a command to Claude in a terminal window or something like that. So Astro Workbench is a very new, it came out last week, very new alternative that I recommend.
All right, I'll check them out. Thank you.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Mercury Weather. Mercury Weather is a thoughtfully designed weather app that shows all the essential weather details at a glance. It has a beautiful, colorful interface that dynamically adapts to your current conditions. So you would see, say, a warm orange palette on a sunny day, icy tones on a cold day, or deep blue on a rainy night. Mercury also uses glanceable chart layouts to present the hourly and daily focus in a way that feels intuitive right away. I like that on that view, it will show you kind of the highs and lows and all of the temperatures, but it give you the high and low, say for the week, that follows a line for each day, so you can see as the high and the low increases and decreases. It's really helpful to have that information rather than trying to work it out in your head. There is also a really cool feature for frequent travelers. Mercury's trip forecast feature automatically shows the weather at your destination right in your daily forecast timeline, so you'll always see the weather for where you'll be, not just where you are. This is so clever. This alone makes this app worth getting, because if you travel at all, it's lovely to know, like as you're planning and getting your packing ready, what the weather's going to be like. And you just see it in your weather app, so you can kind of keep track of it as you would your weather every day. When weather gets serious, Mercury offers everything you need. Storm and hurricane tracking with maps, live positions, forecast paths, cones, and intensity, plus widgets so you can keep track of a specific storm or the closest storm right from your home screen. Mercury Weather's gorgeous interface makes it a delight to check the weather every day, even on gray and rainy ones. The app's business model is simple, no ads and no selling of user data. Mercury is available on all Apple platforms except for tvOS. You can download it, use the standard features for free, and upgrade to Mercury Premium to unlock all the features. Go to mercuryweather.app/connected to download Mercury Weather today. Use that link to let them know that you came from this show. That is mercuryweather.app/connected. The link's in the show notes as well. Try it out and get all the standard features for free. Our thanks to Mercury Weather for their support of this show and Relay. So last week, Federico, Stephen and I gave some kind of a grab bag of WWDC wishes, and I wanted to know if you had anything you wanted to share.
Oh boy, yes, I do. I added some notes to our document,
Mhm.
I would focus on 3 primary areas: AI, iPadOS, and other as a big bucket. With AI, obviously, I want to have a Siri app with a chatbot. Like, I am very excited actually about Apple being late to this game and getting their act together with some help from their friends at Google. I want to see Apple really take advantage of the fact that they can go beyond just being a chatbot. For example, one of the features that is rumored right now is the idea that you can summon the new Siri with AI. It's going to come down from the dynamic island. But if you want to go deeper, you can sort of transfer that session to the main chatbot. And that is something that I would love to have, a way to go from ephemeral conversations with Siri to a more full-fledged chatbot UI so that I can see my previous conversations as well. That is something that I really would love to have. And speaking of the chatbot app, the Siri app, I hope that Apple is planning some kind of folder organization features for chats. I'm not sure if Apple wants to do like these things like projects and environments like OpenAI and Anthropic do, but at least folders or
Yeah,
tags.
it'd be nice. I do worry about them leaning too heavily into just iMessage layout, right? That like, oh, it just
Yeah.
looks like iMessage, works like iMessage, which I can understand for them why that would be a selling point to people, right? To
Sure.
make it feel less intimidating. But I agree that no structure in something like that could be a bit annoying.
Yeah. So I also really hope that we know that it's going to be Google Gemini behind this. So we don't know how much of the Gemini experience you will have in Siri. One of the things that I would like to have is the ability to at least set a thinking level. And I'm sure Apple will simplify all this to the maximum extent. Maybe they'll just call it, fast and pro. And behind the scenes, that will technically mean that it's Gemini 3.1 Flash versus 3.1 Pro. But I just hope that there's at least one switch.
I bet there ain't. Don't worry. We'll take care of it for you. That's what it's going to be.
I really dislike this new trend of adaptive thinking.
Yeah.
No, let me choose. Do I want to go fast or do I want to go slow and, thinking, for several minutes? Knowing Apple, they will probably simplify this to the maximum extent and then eventually they'll walk it back and add some options.
But
because
in
they
theory,
always do.
though, this should be something that is done automatically. And the machine should work it out, right?
This routing systems that they now have. I don't know. I'm a nerd. I like to have manual control over these things. But yes, in theory, they should be working. They should detect, is this a query that requires more thinking and more research or not? In theory, it should work. So I'm also leaning toward agreeing
that feels
with you.
like intelligence, right?
Yes.
Intelligence would tell you that maybe you should take a little bit more time on this query.
In theory, yes. I obviously would love to finally see those app integrations that were first shown off 2 years ago. Whether it's still going to be App Intents or MCP is going to be in the middle now, I don't know. I just really think that one of the key advantages beyond the platform integration is also the App Store ecosystem. The idea that I don't have like for example, I've been working a lot with Claude, and with Claude, I tend to prioritize using web services that have some kind of web API or web integration, like Notion, for example. It'd be nice to have an AI built into my phone that lets me choose. Like, do you just want to use Apple Notes, or do you just want to use, I don't know, the unread RSS app instead of some web service? It'd be nice to have native apps part of the AI conversation.
Yep. Or just any app, right? Like I want to use, I don't know, Craft or whatever, right? Like maybe they probably have an MCP, but you get or Bear Notes or whatever, right? It's just like pull from there, but just pull from there rather than it have to be like, I'm going to have to use this tool if I want Claude to be able to see these notes or whatever it is.
Yeah. I want to move to iPadOS.
Okay.
So I will say the unpopular thing now. Bring back split view. I think so. Almost a year has passed. We all love the new iPad multi-windowing feature. I personally do love it. I really like it. I also think that a lot of people don't. And I also think that despite Apple's best efforts to mitigate the removal of split view and slide over, which was brought back eventually,
Yeah.
I still feel like plenty of people, including me sometimes, miss the old system. And it'd be nice to have that back in some fashion. I don't know how. I just feel like there was something about it that was more intuitive and faster and simpler than the multi-windowing. And the thing is, we made fun over the years of Apple having too many windowing systems and too many systems in general on the iPad. But maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's actually something that we should cherish about iPadOS. That is a computer that is so weird in a good way and so flexible that maybe it's in its own nature to have different systems for different people instead of just a one-size-fits-all approach. So I kind of think that split view should come back, to be honest. I also feel like it would be such a slam dunk for Apple from a PR and current sort of like industry vibe perspective to finally bring a terminal app to the iPad. Give us a terminal on the iPad that is sandboxed and show off during WDC for a couple of minutes Claude Code or Codex running on an iPad in a sandbox, secure, but real shell on the iPad. It would be such an easy story for Apple to say, if you're a developer, if you're an AI tinkerer, you can just now take your AI with you wherever you go with an iPad. Even if you're just working in a park with a cellular connection, an iPad lets you do it. And it obviously, like, it would be a slightly more slimmed down terminal, and it would have to be really sandboxed compared to macOS. But I think it's, given how especially the developer ecosystem is changing, I really do think it's time for Apple to go beyond just saying, we offer Swift playgrounds on the iPad.
What could you do though with a terminal on the iPad?
I mean, just do whatever you can with Claude Code. Like,
Right.
let me just do whatever. Obviously, like, you wouldn't be able to modify system files. I imagine it would be a sandbox directory that allows you to download packages from the internet that only work inside the sandbox. You wouldn't be able to. I don't know. You wouldn't be able to download something that changes the iPad's UI. But like, given the constraints of the sandbox, let me spin up a Node.js server from the iPad that's running inside the sandbox or stuff like that. Just let me do terminal things while also knowing that it's a more secure environment than macOS because of the nature of the iPad. Another quick an easy win would be, given the current times, Apple has, I'll rephrase, one of the best Mac apps that Apple makes that very few people know about is the default built-in free-to-use screen sharing app. The screen sharing app that Apple offers on macOS is the best remote desktop experience you can use because they have an exclusive Mac-only high-definition streaming feature that only Apple can use. Myke, if you're looking for, like, I recommended Jump Desktop before, but if you're doing Mac-to-Mac screen sharing,
Yes.
you just have to use the Apple one, the default one.
Okay.
The screen sharing app, the first time you connect to a remote Mac from your other Mac, you will be asked, do you want to use the high definition feature? You say yes. You're going to have an incredible experience that is high res, incredibly fast, smooth, and low latency.
Okay.
This application should exist on the iPad, especially because of all the things that are happening now with people setting up Mac minis for OpenClaw, or Perplexity just today, a few minutes ago, released Personal Computer, which is a similar idea. Like all these agents, and like they have this incredible utility on macOS that should also exist on iPadOS. I would love to see also the Spotlight, the new Spotlight from macOS from last year. I would love to see it on the iPad with the ability, I guess, this year to also invoke Siri AI from Spotlight, with the ability to run shortcuts more quickly with input from Spotlight, search inside apps, like all the things that they announced with Spotlight on the Mac last year. Would love to see them on the iPad. And finally, for iPadOS, improvements to Safari to really modernize Safari, make it a true desktop class, not the fake desktop class that they offer now. There are so many websites still that, given how the Chromium engine has evolved on desktop, they no longer work in iPadOS Safari. And just modern features like, you look at any modern browser, it seems pretty obvious to me that people like vertical tabs. You can sort of fake your way around having vertical tabs in iPadOS Safari, but not really. I would love to see a native vertical tab mode. I would love to see a Command K bar. Like, you know how in those apps you press Command K and you can do things? Like Arc used to have it, Dia has it, Notion has it, Spotify, of all applications on the Mac, has a Command K bar. I would love to have that in Safari in general, also on the Mac, but especially on the iPad. Okay, lastly, in the other category, I will mention, I cannot repeat exactly what I wrote in my notes, but
Yes.
fix the camera.
Yep.
I would love to see less washed out colors, more contrasty pictures by default, and a completely redesigned experience for photographic styles, because the UI that we have right now is madness. Like I still, like, I know that you've explained this to me, people have explained this to me, the whole thing with the weird touchpad or going into settings or the numeric values, complete and total madness. Get rid of it, rename it, redesign it, whatever, make it easier, make it more obvious. Get rid of the numbers. Like, I don't know, make it sliders or something.
I mean,
like,
it's possible they could do this, but it won't be a WWDC, right? Like, if they do this, they'll do this in September.
Yeah,
it will be
probably.
like part of the new phone will have a new camera experience or whatever, which is how they
Probably.
did when they did the photographic styles change a couple of years ago. It was like, hey, here's a new thing. So they'll probably do that if they do that.
Yeah, you're right. In the other bucket, I will also drop more customization options. Given the upcoming iPhone Duo/iPhone Fold, which is going to have a smaller screen, I think it's also time to have a home screen that allows you to have a denser, a tighter icon layout. That phone is going to be small, but you still want to be able, but you still want to be able to fit, you know, a bunch of your favorite applications on the home screen. So I think it's time to have a tighter home screen layout on all devices in general. Like, it's so spaced out compared to what you can do on Android. Like, let me make it, you know, let the icons be cozier with one another if I want to. I also would love to have the small icon option, but without the text labels. The icon labels.
Yeah, I would like to not have the text labels. I cannot deal with the size of the icons. It just doesn't feel right to me.
I know. I would love to go back, but in choosing between the text labels and the giant icons, I just I don't want to see the text labels anymore.
I get it.
Yeah. And finally, more widget sizes. Speaking as you are a part of the widget trio, but I would love to see this. I would love to see mini rectangular widgets, like half of a square widget. I don't know.
Two icons.
Two icons. Yeah. Two icons as a widget.
You could do some really fun stuff with like text-based widgets like that, like little information ticker kind of things. Like, it would be really nice.
Yes,
really
exactly.
Nice.
Precisely what I mean. That's my wishes for now.
How much do you think you're actually going to get of that? Like not like thing by thing,
Ooh,
but do you?
iPad probably nothing.
I
iPad,
especially think your dream of them kind of bringing split view back, I don't think that's going to happen, considering that they did something. I was like, that's as much as you're getting.
I think iPad, I'm just going to get Spotlight
Yeah.
based on the informal conversations from briefings last year. Whenever I mentioned, that new Spotlight looks great on the Mac, it sure would be nice to get it on the iPad. And some of the people in the room were like, yes, we know. We'll see.
It feels like that the idea of the combination of Siri and Spotlight together, which was what Mark Gurman's been reporting, you would assume that some of that would come to the iPad as well.
Yeah.
But all devices, because the iPhone definitely will get it. So, all right, very nice. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform that is designed to help you stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just getting started or scaling your business, Squarespace gives you everything that you need to claim your domain, showcase your offerings for a professional website, grow your brand, and get paid, all in one place. With Squarespace, you can get discovered fast with a suite of integrated SEO tools, because why build a beautiful website if nobody can ever find it? That's why every Squarespace website is optimized to be indexed with meta descriptions, an auto-generated sitemap, and more, so people can find your site through search engine results. You can also make smarter business decisions with their analytics platform. You can keep track of the stats that matter with intuitive built-in analytics tools that make it super easy for you to review website traffic, learn where to focus engagement, and track revenue from bookings, invoices, or product sales. These are just a couple of reasons why I use Squarespace myself and have done for like 20 years nearly for various projects. It's why I recommend it to others as well, because these are really good tools to have, but would be otherwise complicated to do if you were doing it. If you were trying to build a website from scratch, you'd have to be using different services, plugging a bunch of stuff in. You don't want to be doing that. You just want to use Squarespace because it has everything that you need, which is one of the reasons that I really love it. Go and check it out for yourself by going to squarespace.com/connected. You can sign up for a free trial. You can see how easy it is to build websites on Squarespace, and then you can build the whole thing. And when you're ready to launch it, use the offer code CONNECTED and you'll save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That is squarespace.com/connected with the code CONNECTED for 10% off your first purchase and to show your support for the show. Our thanks to Squarespace for their support of this show and all of Relay. So, Federico, you released Apple Frames 4 a few days ago.
Yes.
So this is, in case people have missed it, you've had this is, in fact, the fourth iteration of a shortcut system, I'll call it, because of the complication of being able to take images, screenshots of any device that you have, put them in frames, so make them, kind of sitting them inside of the devices that they were taking on, so they look really pretty, and then being able to share them. Maybe you're a developer and you want them for screenshots or for marketing purposes, or maybe you want to share kind of non-disembodied screenshots on social media. You can do this. It looks very natural. But you said finally, and also your article on Mac Stories says, well, it's been a minute. What is new about Apple Frames 4, and why has it taken you so long to go from 3 to 4?
Okay, so what's new is that it's faster, much, much faster than before, and it supports all the latest Apple devices, including the just released, as of last week, frames for the Studio Display and Studio Display XDR and the iMac in colors, which is also something that Apple added about 10 days ago. It supports all the latest iPhones, Apple Watches, everything, MacBook Neo, you name it. The other big feature is that it now supports colors. So it used to be that I would have to make a decision. Whenever Apple releases their official product bezels on the Apple marketing website, in the older version of Apple Frames, I would have to pick a default color and just use that for that particular device. So if the iPhone came in 3 colors, Apple Frames only supported 1. And maybe it wasn't really representative of the device that you personally owned. Well, now Apple Frames supports all colors for all product bezels that offer colors on the Apple website. And going forward, assuming that Apple keeps releasing frames with multiple colors, Apple Frames is also going to support those multiple colors too. In terms of like faster, more devices, colors, and device variants, meaning the Apple ecosystem of devices has obviously grown quite big at this point, and there are some overlapping device resolutions. For example, the iPhone 17 Pro has the same resolution as the 16 Pro, and there are dozens of other examples like that. In the past, I would have, again, to make a personal decision, like for this resolution point, which device do I want to support? And so in previous years, if the 15 Pro had the same resolution as the 16 Pro, I just had to make a decision. The 16 Pro is going to be the default. And again, maybe that was not necessarily representative of the device that you personally owned. So now, Apple Frames 4 still defaults to the latest Apple device for any particular display resolution, but you can override the default. If you don't have a 17 Pro, you want to stick with the 16 Pro, you just open the shortcut, you find the device variant setting, you pick up your device model, you drag it to the top of the list, and that's going to be the default for the shortcut. And finally, for the shortcut, proportional scaling. That is something that always annoyed me about Apple Frames. So let's say that you pick an iPhone screenshot, an iPad screenshot, and an Apple Watch screenshot, and you frame them, and Apple Frames, the shortcut, merges by default. Again, it's a behavior that you can change if you don't want to, but by default, it merges those devices side by side, producing a single image where the devices are placed horizontally side by side. The problem was that before, the proportions would be all wrong. An iPhone would be as tall as an iPad Pro, or an Apple Watch would be sometimes even taller than an iPhone 16 Pro. That was obviously wrong. I had to add a proportional scaling system, and that was quite difficult, but it was part of the other, I think, conversation for Apple Frames 4, which is, this is really the first time that one of my ongoing, long-standing projects has been the result of my ideas and initial implementation plus AI. So Apple Frames 4 actually started about a year and a half ago, where I had this idea. This is before Claude Code even existed. I had this idea for changing the structure of the shortcut to get rid of about 500 actions inside the shortcut. It used to be that the shortcut would have these real nasty conditions, one inside the other, where the shortcut said, if screenshot is iPad Pro, if screenshot is iPad Pro in portrait, or if screenshot is iPhone 15 Pro, like over and over and over, 500 actions in total. And it became impossible to manage, impossible to debug, and impossible to update. And I realized there's got to be a different way to do this. So the new shortcut, this idea that I had in late 2024, I think, was, well, rather than checking multiple times over and over, I want the shortcut to just check once and understand with that single check what device is it dealing with. And my idea was, instead of checking inside the shortcut, the shortcut will come up with a number. It will check if that number exists in a text file. And if it does, it'll get the value of that number to understand what device we're dealing with. The number is the resolution width of a screenshot. So how large is it? It gets a number like, I don't know, 2200, and it says, okay, 2200, what is it? And the text file comes back and says, MacBook Air, right? And I'm simplifying here, but that's the idea. Instead of checking over and over with multiple conditions, it makes one call to a text file that is stored in iCloud Drive, and the text file comes back and says, it's this device, it has this name, it supports these colors, it supports variants, and it has these proportions compared to other devices. I came up with this system, and I had a working version of this last year, and then I put it off because creating that text file, which is a JSON file, by hand, I didn't want to do it. It was going to be lots of busy work, and I kept putting it off because I knew that it was going to be daunting, and it was going to be complicated, and it was going to be boring, and I knew that it was going to work because I did have a functioning prototype. I just didn't want to do the busy work myself. Now, a few weeks ago, I had this idea. I realized, well, hold on a second. So Apple Frames 4, first of all, I'm really tired. I gotta have a new version of it. It's exhausting that I cannot frame these new devices, like the Apple Watch Ultra 3, for example. But now all that busy work potentially can be automated by AI. And we now have these coding agents. These coding agents are excellent at busy work and taking care of lots of text and working with files in a file system. And I realized, okay, let me try something here. First of all, let me try and distill all of this knowledge that I have in my brain about Apple Frames, how it works, how it's designed, how I created it, into a skill for Claude. So first of all, I took all the things that I knew and I created a skill for Claude so that every time we would chat about Apple Frames, it would know what it was about. So first of all, I created a skill version of what I had in my head about Apple Frames. And then I started working with Claude Code to modernize Apple Frames. Claude Code did the research and worked at one point for like 3 hours straight to research all the physical proportions. Because see, with proportional scaling, it's not just about screen sizes. You gotta find through all the Apple documentation and support pages the physical dimensions of each device. Like how big an iPhone 17 Pro or a 15 Pro actually is compared to a studio display. How big is an Apple Watch Series 6 compared to a Series 11 when you factor in the bezels or you factor in the watch bands, which are also visible in the framed images. So it came up with these physical proportions that are now embedded in this JSON file that I did not edit myself, not even once. I basically guided and directed Claude to design a system that worked exactly the way I wanted. And then I kind of went a step beyond. I went 2 steps beyond. The first step was for the past 4.5 months, I have been working on what started as a skill, has now become a plugin called Shortcuts Playground. I'm sure that Apple will send me a cease and desist eventually when I release this to the public. But I am going to launch it as Shortcuts Playground. It's a way for you to create shortcuts in the Shortcuts app using natural language. And it works. It actually does work. I've been working on it since January. And it's good enough at this point that I have been able to iterate on the Apple Frames shortcut using my system that generates shortcuts. So Shortcuts Playground allowed me to make edits to the Apple Frames shortcut based on what we were working on for new frames, for the JSON index, and all of those things. For example, the logic for doing proportional scaling inside the shortcut, I can sort of follow along the calculations that it does, but I didn't write that code myself. And we're talking about the shortcut, right? I didn't do it myself. My Shortcuts Playground system did it. So that was a really sort of like compounding effect of all these things, all this research and tinkering that I've been doing for the past year really came together in this project.
Because this shortcut, like people can go through it. I think at a certain point, it's become too complicated for you to be able to manage it all on your own.
Yes. Even especially the math that is required for the proportional scaling and merging.
Yeah.
Like you gotta get the aspect ratio and then you gotta calculate what's the height multiplied by a normalized value. It's very complex, and I've never been that good at math myself. So I have seen with this project the compounding effect of all this tinkering that I've been doing for the past year came together here because I knew exactly how to work with the AI. I knew where it was gonna be good, where it was not gonna be good, and that's where I stepped in with the ideas, saying, no, this is dumb. I prefer to do it this way in a particular part of the shortcut. The other step beyond was realizing at some point that I've always had a pretty strong audience for the Apple Frames shortcut in terms of developers who use Apple Frames to speed up the creation of marketing assets for their apps. And I realized, well, okay, I have created this system where all the assets for Apple Frames, the actual images, the PNG masks. Oh, by the way, Sylvia used to do those PNG masks, and she absolutely hated doing that as a favor to me. And so when I asked her a few weeks ago, I said, hey, would you mind if I replaced you with AI so that you don't have to do the frames for me anymore? She just looked at me and said, finally. I hated it. Please replace me
Please
with
get
AI.
the computer to do
She's
this.
She was sacrificed to the AI, and she was very happy about it. But I was saying, I realized, okay, I have this JSON index. I have the folder with all the image assets. I know that developers love using Apple Frames as a shortcut, but like shortcuts kind of sucks if you do a certain kind of automation over and over. And I thought, well, we live in this new weird era where everybody loves the terminal. Again, what if I did a command line interface for developers and tinkerers to use Apple Frames? And thus the Frames CLI was born. So Apple Frames is still a shortcut, and it's still primarily a shortcut. But if you are a developer and if you need to frame hundreds, thousands of images and automate the process with even more options than a shortcut would allow in a much more ergonomic way, if you are a developer who's working in a terminal day in and out anyway, you can now use Apple Frames on the terminal. And it's super fast. There's a video in the article that shows you how fast it can frame 50 images in a folder.
Very cool.
It's all based on Python, and with the standard, with a pillow Python image library. No weird external dependencies. It makes one single call to the internet. If you don't have the Apple Frames assets already installed from the MacStories CDN, it will download those. But actually, the CLI can detect if you are an existing user of Apple Frames with shortcuts. It'll just keep using the same assets that you already have in iCloud Drive. It supports some options that are not possible yet in the shortcut. For example, batch mode. So let's say that you are a developer and you just took 200 screenshots of your app in multiple languages, both in light mode and dark mode. And you have them in a folder or subfolders, all sequentially named, you name it. You want to frame those screenshots for the App Store, but obviously you don't want to end up with a single image where all the images are framed side by side in an incredibly long...
You did do that for me for fun, and it looked hilarious.
Yes, it's very long. With batch mode, you can say from the CLI, you can say, take this folder. It has 200 images. I want you to merge 5 iPhones side by side. So you frame this in batches of 5. So resulting in 40 images, right? And the CLI will do that. And on top of that, you can add additional options. Like you can say every time you frame, randomize the color, for example. So you can have, you can spice things up a little. And it supports proportional scaling. So you can put an iPhone next to an iPad and that'll be the right size. And of course, to top it all off, there's a skill for Claude Code or Codex that teaches Claude Code and Codex or any coding agent how to use the CLI. So you can just drop it in, you install the CLI, you drop in the skill, you ask Claude, I need to frame these images, and Claude will know what you mean. And I even tested it with an MCP server for Xcode. I had Claude test, and this is something that, if you're a developer, you can actually do this. It's not science fiction. You can have Claude automatically test your application project from Xcode, take screenshots of the simulator and frame them with the Frames CLI, and it's going to work.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So Thank
So
you.
people can go to Mac Stories and they can get all of this, right?
Yes, it's all free,
free.
and the shortcut is on Mac Stories. It's on the Mac Stories Shortcuts Archive, and the CLI is open source on GitHub. I closed my first issue the other
Congrats.
day, and I felt like a real developer.
Real developer.
So, yeah, it's strange times we're living in, but also very, very fun.
In honor of this, it's like what's the best thing that we can do on a podcast to celebrate Apple Frames is to show off and talk about our home screens. So we're going to do that.
Of course.
You'll find a link in the show notes to our current home screen arrangements. Should we talk through mine first? Because you've done a lot of speaking.
Thank you.
So this is my current home screen with the correct iPhone. I like that, by the way. I think it's really cool that you do that. So across the top, I'm very widget focused. I've always been very widget focused. I'm now even more widget focused than I was before because part of my living is made by widgets now. The top kind of stack, I like stacks too, on my main home screen. It's a Fantastical and Carrot Weather has always been the classic kind of stack that I have there. I do also have a Widgetsmith calendar there too, which I've been tinkering with and playing around with a little bit recently, because I do actually really like the way it operates in Widgetsmith, and you can use URL schemes that when I tap it, it opens Fantastical. So that actually works pretty well for me. But I'm playing around with it. I haven't been able to drop the Fantastical widget yet. I'm not really sure why. I feel like it's just a part of my heart that I can't do it. Then I have another widget, which is Due. So I use Due for lots of like kind of simple reminders, like take out the trash, that kind of stuff that's going to happen every day. And reminders that like I can't afford to miss because something bad will happen. Like I have like medication reminders, I will put in there, little things like that. Lots of little house chores, but that's a stack, and underneath that is reminders, which has kind of like bigger shared family projects going reminders. So I've got those going on there. And then I have like 2 groups of 4 apps. So starting from the top, I have Notes, because that's just my Notes app, or it has been for a really long time, and I can't imagine moving. I really love the Notes app. I have ChatGPT next. I'm thinking of changing this to Claude. Like I've been using Claude more and more. The thing that I haven't yet moved all over into Claude is just kind of like my general, instead of a web searches. I haven't really put kind of Claude through its paces for those, but I expect it probably does a good enough job. So that's kind of my next thing to do. But I'm using ChatGPT less and less, and I'm using Claude more and more. And yes, Claude has been a sponsor, but the reason is because Federico, for my birthday, gave me a very nice gift of Claude, I don't remember, Max. You gave me a month of Max.
Yes.
Then I went and built a bunch of apps, and I was like, oh, you know what? I love this. And I'm a big fan of Cowork. Claude Cowork is really great. And when you hook that up with its connectors, man, I've been doing some fantastic stuff recently with like being able to connect Claude to local files and my Notion database. Whoa, baby. I've been doing some stuff. I'm having a great time. And I've got City Mapper, which is the app that I use for getting around London. City Mapper is fantastic for public transport. Absolutely the best interface. It really understands what's going on. It has really good like filtering and stuff. Like in the summer, they have a has aircon button for the different transport options. It's very clever stuff. They really understand city living and how travel works in cities. Then I got Mango Baby, which is the baby tracking app that I've used for a really long time now. Obviously for over a year, for obvious reasons. Then I have the Photos app, which, you got to have your photos. Then I have Books. What about that?
Books. Because he's reading Apple in China.
I'm reading Apple in China, but I'm reading it. Like I'm actually reading
it.
That used to be Instagram there, and I replaced the Instagram app with the Books app, and I've been very happy about that. Messages. Got Messages. Then I got Widgetsmith, which is like, it was really weird for me to do this, to like put Widgetsmith on my main home screen, because it's like, I have so many ways to get to it, but we've got some stuff coming, which means that I'm needing to check the app more and more and more, and it became annoying to search. So it's like, all right, I'm putting Widgetsmith on my home screen, and I'm just dealing with it. I expect that there's maybe like 4 to 5 people in the world that have Widgetsmith, just the app on their home screen, and now I'm one of them. And the rest of them also probably work on Widgetsmith, would be my expectation. Then I have Timery, and underneath Timery is a kind of a small kind of 2-stack shortcuts widget, which is 2 of my most used time tracking focused shortcuts. So that I have one which is to just go back in time and add an entry. So like I can say like press a button, it pops up and I like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or enter a time. And this is like sometimes I find myself working on something and I'm like, oh, I forgot to start my timer. So I can just jump back in time and add an entry. And then the other one is for when I'm recording shows. It's a shortcut that looks at my calendar, finds the name of the current entry in my podcast calendar, and then adds that name as a tag to a time entry, because I just format things in such a way that that all works very nicely. In my dock, I have Todoist, Notion, Safari, and Overcast. Then on my second screen, I have a stack of health apps. So Athletic is my favorite, but I also have been trying out a couple of other ones. I have Peak in there, and also Gentler Streak, which I also have the icon for Gentler Streak on my home screen. Gentler Streak's not going to last. It just doesn't work for me. I can't explain it. It just doesn't have the feeling that I want. Athletic is absolutely the app that I want. I then have a Mango Baby widget. I have Craft. I've been playing around with Craft for some note stuff, but again, I also don't think that's going to last. And then I put Delta on. I started replaying a Pokemon game a little while ago, but I've stopped now. But yeah, so that kind of, there's like a 4 stack there of apps. Those are like things I need that I'm trying, right? It's like a reminder to try the things that live in that space. I then have Duolingo. I missed my Duolingo yesterday, which I was very upset about. But I guess
I'm sorry for your loss.
It's okay. I'm not too precious about the streak. I've been doing Duolingo for over 800 days at this point. I'm not super upset about the streak thing. Basically, I was doing my Duolingo at night. So like we used to give Sophia we'd kind of wake her up and give her a feed, like give her a bottle. That stopped happening, completely threw my life into disarray of like when I do my Duolingo, and now I just keep forgetting. But it's fine.
For a second, my brain thought, give her an RSS feed.
Give her an RSS feed. I'm like, kid, you need to learn about CLIs. You're going to get replaced. You got to hurry up. Then I have a stack of Photos widgets. So I've got the Photos app, and then a bunch of, like, I have 2 Widgetsmith widgets. One is an On This Day widget. One is a pulls from albums, and one pulls from favorites, actually. Now, say all of this sounds like, wow, Myke's talking about Widgetsmith a lot. Is it because he works there? Now, on these 2 pages, all of the widgets that I had before I started working with Widgetsmith. The next page, these are all that I did afterwards, right? So, like, I've been using Widgetsmith for a long time anyway. There's a lot of documented history of my home screen, so you can prove that fact yourself. Then on my last page, I have a bunch of other widgets. So I have a time zone widget. I have a music widget, which gives me quick access to a bunch of music that we play for Sophia. So we have like a lullabies playlist. There's also Imogen Heap's Happy Song, which is just one of the greatest creations in all of history. Federico, it was a scientifically, it was a song that was backed by scientific research from Goldsmiths University in the UK to create a song that would make children happy. They approached Imogen Heap. She said yes. They produced it. This song is like a thing, and child's unhappy, you play the happy song, they become happy again. Unbelievable. Then there is a white noise widget. It actually plays, do I have brown noise? Yeah, brown noise, which is just a nicer sound than white noise. And then just like a photo of Adina and the baby. And there's also some other photos widgets in that stack of some secret things that we're working on. And then I have a collection of baby-related apps. So Sleep Coach and Huckleberry are apps that we've used for different things. Sleep Coach is like a sleep predictor app. Huckleberry is what Mango Baby is, but not made by an independent developer? What if like this app, but they really want you to become like all parents use Huckleberry? It's the one that is, I think, a bit predatory. Like they really want your subscription, and it's really expensive and that kind of thing. And then Babylog is a shortcut that I made that just does a bunch of things. So yeah, that's my home screen. This episode is brought to you by Steam Clock. A lot of mobile apps, they're just mediocre. They're not broken, they're just okay at best. But you, and I know you, as a listener of this show, notice the difference when you use an app that is actually good. And Steam Clock software builds mobile apps for companies that care about taste. They are a design and development studio based in Vancouver, Canada, and they have been shipping iOS and Android apps for over 15 years. Their clients are growing tech companies that care about mobile but don't have the in-house team to build something great. Steam Clock works with companies to level up their apps so they can go from it's holding us back to it's pulling its weight. Some of their clients discovered the hard way that vibe coding your way to the App Store is not a viable product strategy. What makes Steam Clock worth calling out isn't just that they execute well, it's that they'll help you figure out the right approach and give you an honest read on your situation before committing to anything. Their client apps have been downloaded over 10 million times, and they've helped 5 of their clients through acquisitions. If you're building something and need a mobile team that cares just as much as you do, Steam Clock is where you start. Visit steamclock.com/connected to get in touch. That is steamclock.com/connected. Our thanks to Steam Clock for their support of this show and all of Relay.
All right. Mine is a pretty simple home screen, I think.
Okay.
So I don't really use widgets. I use widgets much less than you do. So starting from the... Are you going to upload this to the Discord?
Of course.
By the way, Mark, thank you.
And in the show notes.
I use the left page, the today page of the home screen. For basic stuff, like I have 2 calendar widgets, one for the family calendar, another for the work calendar. Then I have 2 shortcuts widgets, one for Apple Frames, one for Shortcuts Playground, which I use all the time to sort of generate shortcuts on my Mac Studio server in the background and then install them directly on my iPhone, and then the batteries widget.
Okay.
I don't simple use
that screen at all anymore.
Interesting. That's I use it because I really don't want to see widgets on my primary home screen, which has to be all about icons.
Okay.
And maybe eventually, I really would love to have keyboard input support for widgets like it's possible on Android, but that's not possible on iOS, unfortunately. On my home screen, these have been the apps that I've been using most. It's been pretty consistent. The one thing I will call out immediately is that you will see the icon for X on my home screen.
Hurts my heart.
I am not an X user, but unfortunately I have to use it to keep up with some AI news that, unbeknownst to me, only happen there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me why. Some people don't use blogs. Some people don't post on Blue Sky or Mastodon. We mentioned this before on the show. I am so confused by the fact that a bunch of people who work at OpenAI, people that I know, continue posting on X, a company run by the guy that is suing OpenAI.
But it's self-perpetuating, right? Like if they continue to do it, it's the place you have to do it. Like if you want to talk about AI, you have to go there. I don't know why that is the case. Like I would understand, sure, if you don't want to use Mastodon for whatever reason, but Blue Sky exists. Like, why not use that? I don't understand.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. But unfortunately, I have to use it because, I have noticed things and discovered people that became meaningful connections for Mac stories, for things like embargoes and articles, including one that you will see in a few minutes.
Well, I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. In about 15 minutes, you will see one that is a result of one of these connections from X, unfortunately. So it is what it is. I was opening the timeline enough times during the day that I realized, well, I'm just going to swallow this ugly thing and put X on the home screen. Whatever. Anyway, so that's my social row of icons. Instagram, X, Mastodon, and Blue Sky. Top row has always been about media. for me.
Mm-hmm.
So App Store, because I check for app updates multiple times a day. I recently switched from Pocket Casts after many years back to Overcast
Yeah.
because of the transcript feature, and because I don't know, there's something about it. The story that Marco told on ATP about like going from one Mac Mini to a fleet of Mac Minis in a data center and using the Apple APIs for transcriptions and the plans that he has for the future. There's something so cool about the fact that there's a small army of Mac Minis in a data center generating transcripts, or you can generate it on device using the Apple framework. I don't know. It's just a beautiful thing. Beautiful nerdy thing that makes me happy. Whenever I do use the transcript feature, which I do, it's quite handy to skip ads in podcasts, but also to go back and double check, did that person really say that, or just find something. So really cool. And also the Overcast audio effects are, I gotta say, still unparalleled compared to Pocket Casts or Castro. It's got the best audio boost and the best trim silence, bar none. And I have tried them all. So I finally, I can say this with confidence, finally switched for good from Spotify to Apple Music. I was able to stick with it this time, and I'm really happy because I don't want to use Spotify anymore. I just very much like the Apple Music UI, especially the now playing screen with lyrics. It's just so much nicer than Spotify, and I love the ability to pin albums and artists or playlists to the top of your library, which is something that I do a lot for new albums I want to listen to. The other icon is one of the many icons for vibe-coded apps by me, but I commissioned these icons. So that icon next to Apple Music, the light mode equivalent in the third row from the bottom, and then the two yellow ones. Those are all commissioned icons that I created for some of my local web apps that I commissioned to excellent icon designer Matthew Skiles. So Matthew did really, really excellent work with these apps. This one in particular is a YouTube Watch Later web app that I created for myself. Those YouTube videos are actually saved in my Notion. So it's a web app that loads YouTube videos that I saved for later with the Notion web clipper. And I have a Notion AI agent that reformats them, presents them nicely, and gets them ready for this web app where they are presented in a grid view that shows me a timestamp, a duration, a summary, a bunch of nice things. Third row from the top, we have Unread, my RSS client of choice. We recently stopped using Superhuman and we went back to Spark.
Whoa, that's a big change.
Because of Sylvia. Sylvia could not stand Superhuman, and she forced me to go back to Spark, in her own words, the only good email app that was ever made.
I need to speak to Sylvia.
Sylvia thinks this?
Well, I mean, has she ever used Mailbox? That's the only good email I've ever made.
I don't think she ever
Sylvia
did.
clearly didn't hear my diatribe of the first version of the Spark Mail app on the Mac, which was, whoa, boy.
I know.
It's probably better now, but...
It's kind of better now. But yeah, so we're using Spark. It's fine. We got sharing. There's no AI search, which is too bad, but whatever. Next up is a shortcut called the Notion Central. It's a menu shortcut. It lets me open my daily notes or other pages in my Notion. Slack, which we use for team communication. Then moving down, there's the other web app. This is similar to the other one in that it's based on the same Notion database, but it's about regular web clippings. So all the things that I clip in there, except the YouTube videos. So stuff I find on the web, that's my web clippings database.
I know you use Notion a lot now, and I've heard you talk about it, but do you not use Obsidian at all anymore?
No, I've been writing in Notion for the past year.
Yeah, no, I remember that, but I wasn't sure if you used it at all for anything. You're completely away from Obsidian?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I am intrigued by this new trend of using
Yeah.
Obsidian locally with Cloud Code.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Notion is just there's this new term that I use a lot to describe these AI experiences. It's ergonomic, and by that I mean, and I think the same about Claude. I find that Notion and Claude are some of the most AI ergonomic AI products in the sense that they adapt to you,
Yeah.
that they are comfortable to use from many different devices. They have different input methods. They are very flexible. They are comfortable to use. And I find Notion very comfortable, especially the Notion AI product that they have. You can use it on the web. They're coming out with an iOS app just for Notion AI. It's very easy to use and fast and reliable.
Okay.
Reminders I have been using again as my primary task manager
Okay.
for a couple of reasons. The first one is, again, when I say that Claude is ergonomic, I really like the fact that Claude on iOS has a built-in reminders integration. So
Oh, I
you
didn't
can
know
just
that.
enable, yeah, it integrates with reminders and calendar. So if you go in settings on iOS and iPadOS,
Yeah.
you flip a switch, you grant it access, it can natively read and write to your reminders. So it's a way to use reminders with a good AI on iOS. Reminders also works with Perplexity, if you're into that. But the second reason, and a small teaser that I also posted on Mastodon a couple of weeks ago, my second CLI, Myke, will be a reminders CLI for AI agents on desktop. And I will tell you, because the whole point of making this CLI was to make the best CLI for reminders. I researched my competitors in this field, and I think I have the best CLI for Apple reminders that you can find on macOS. So that'll be open sourced at some point in the near future. But yeah, shortcuts, drafts. I'm using drafts as a quick text scratchpad. It's pretty excellent for that. The next two are two other vibe coded web apps. The first one lets me quickly add text or images or audio to my Notion daily note for the day. Also a custom icon by Matthew. And next to it, a sort of similar Notion daily note web app, but to scroll horizontally, as you can see in the icon, my currently open daily notes. So daily notes that I still have not marked as done, I can review in that web app. iMessage, WhatsApp, Matter, which I'm using as my read later again because of two features, the superior text to speech and the CLI, of course, that came out a couple of days ago. Photos, Jump Desktop, and bottom right is a shortcut called Launch Menu. It's a menu launcher for all of the web apps that I'm running on my Mac Studio server, all the things that I built for me. And in the dock, Notion, Claude, Safari, best browser that you can use on iOS, and Telegram, which I exclusively use for Claude.
Okay.
Finally, on the last page, it's sort of like my random page where I test stuff. There's the Claude widget, which currently gained the ability to be customizable, so you can change the buttons in the Claude widget. Sonos, two vibe-coded web apps, one for watching videos that I bookmarked on X. This is another thing that people do on X. Content creators posting long-form videos on X instead of YouTube and forcing me to watch them on X. No, thank you. So I vibe coded a web app that takes my bookmarks from X, downloads those videos, and lets me watch them in a native Apple video player. So I don't have to use X for video consumption too. Next to it is a little this is AI generated. I still have not commissioned these icons. It's called Ghost Reader.
I like that icon though.
Yeah, it's kind of cute.
Why has it got a cassette though?
Because it's a way for me. This is before I switched to Matter.
Okay.
It's based on Readwise Reader.
Yep.
And it lets me listen to audio summaries of articles from my Readwise Reader.
Okay.
Probably gonna get rid of it, so I will not commission the icon. The Philips Hue widget, And the last row is 2 dictation apps and 2 vibe-coded web apps. The 2 dictation apps that I need to make a decision about right now are Aqua Voice, the one with the blue circle, and Super Whisper. Both offer an iOS keyboard. I think I'm leaning toward Aqua Voice. Super Whisper is kind of weird and complicated on the Mac. I think Aqua Voice is a little more Apple-like and intuitive, and they have their own custom voice transcription model that I think works better than Super Whisper, so I'm probably gonna stick with Aqua Voice. And next to it, the first one, the RSS icon, I think this one I will commission, because this is the RSS reader that I'm, especially on the iPad and the Mac, I've been using more than on Red. I built for myself a Kanban board RSS reader where articles are not grouped by folder. They're not grouped by website. They're grouped by topic, thanks to AI. So whenever I open it, the AI takes a look at my unread articles and groups them in columns by topic. It's a very nice way to mark a bunch of related things as read and to find them all grouped in the same section, thanks to natural language processing. And finally, the checkmark is another local web app based on my reminders CLI.
Okay.
It's a web app that provides a custom calendar view for reminders. It was a quick experiment. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but like all my other experiments, it was a learning opportunity. I learned about a bunch of web frameworks I was not familiar with. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. A lot of the things that I try and build, I eventually discard because the only reason I do it is like the things that I release to the public are like a fraction of the things that I build.
Yeah.
And most of them get discarded, but every time I learn something, and that I think is really valuable, especially if, I'm going to be 40 in 2 years, and I want to keep my mind fresh and active and curious, and I think that tinkering with AI and these things is a great way to stay on top of things. Even if I don't end up releasing a bunch of these things, it was always a learning opportunity. So that's it. And the empty row is empty because that's where I drop random stuff that I want to test from the App Store. When I'm writing for Mac Stories Weekly, the app debuts, that kind of thing.
Very cool. All right, if you want to get the notes for this episode, they should be in your podcast player of choice, but they're always on the web over at relay.fm/connected/599 is the name of this episode. If you'd like to leave us some feedback or you got any follow-up, go to connectedfeedback.com and you can do that. And if you would like a longer ad-free version of this show every week, go to getconnectedpro.co and you can sign up. This time we spoke about Federico's reemergence to Tears of the Kingdom. So if you want to hear more about that, you can. If you would like to catch up with the Prince Flexi online, he's the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net. You can also find Federico on a variety of podcasts like App Stories and NPC. You can find me here on Relay. You can check out my work at Cortex Brand and theenthusiast.net. And if you would like to find our missing AG Flexi, that's Stephen Hackett, you can go to 512pixels.net and find him there as well. I would like to thank our sponsors for this week. That is Mercury Weather, Squarespace, and Steam Clock. But most of all, thank you for listening. Until next time, say goodbye, Federico.
Arrivederci.